In 2000, Renault announced its plans to return to Formula One with the purchase of the Benetton Formula team. Flavio Briatore had a reputation as a talent scout, and probably his greatest find has been Fernando Alonso. During the 2009 season, the actions of Renault F1 during the 2008 season were examined over alleged race fixing. The issue surrounded Nelson Piquet Jr.'s crash during the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix, which Renault teammate Fernando Alonso went on to win. At the time, Piquet Jr. had characterized the incident as a simple mistake. After Piquet Jr. left the Renault team in August 2009, allegations surfaced that this crash had been deliberate, to give an advantage to Alonso. Piquet hit the circuit wall at turn 17, one of the turns on the circuit which did not have a crane nearby, necessitating the deployment of the safety car. Brazilian Felipe Massa was leading the Grand Prix for Ferrari before Piquet Jr.'s crash. Safety car regulations in 2008 meant that the pit lane was closed until all cars had been bunched up behind the safety car. Hence the advantage of the lead cars would be eliminated before they were able to pit, and after they did pit, they would re-enter the race at the back of the field. Alonso, having pitted just before the safety car was introduced, therefore gained a significant advantage. In order to avoid running out of fuel, some drivers did need to pit while the pit lane was closed, and they were penalized for the infraction. Most of the leading cars ended up behind Alonso and also behind some slower drivers who proved difficult to pass on the narrow circuit. Those ahead of Alonso were lighter on fuel, and whilst they were able to pull away, they still needed to make a pit stop. After gaining the lead in the final third of the race, Alonso went on to win the race. Following a FIA investigation in which Piquet Jr. stated he had been asked by Renault team principal Flavio Briatore and engineer Pat Simons to stage the crash, on September 4, 2009 Renault were charged with conspiracy and race fixing and were due to face the FIA World Motorsport Council in Paris on September 21, 2009. Initially, Renault and Briatore stated they would take legal action against Piquet Jr. for making false allegations. However, before the meeting, Renault announced they would not contest the charges, and that Briatore and Simons had left the team. At the meeting, the council banned Renault from Formula One, but suspended this sanction for 2 years, meaning Renault would have been thrown out of Formula One if a similar incident occurred before the end of the 2011 season. FIA stated that Renault would have likely been thrown out of Formula One if it had not taken swift action in pushing out Briatore and Simons. At the same meeting, Briatore was banned from FIA events for life, while Simons received a 5-year ban. The bans on Briatore and Simons were subsequently overturned by a French court in 2010. Briatore and Simons reached a settlement that allowed Briatore and Simons to return to FIA in 2011 and to Formula One in 2013. Before the fixing of the mentioned race, Briatore was convicted of multiple counts of fraud in the 1980s, receiving 2 prison sentences. In 1984, a court in Bergamo found him guilty of various counts of fraud, and he was fined and sentenced to 1 year and 6 months in prison. The sentence was subsequently reduced to 1 year by a court of appeal in 1988. In 1986, in Milan, Briatore was sentenced to 3 years for fraud and conspiracy for his role in a team of confidence tricksters who, over a number of years, set up rigged gambling games using fake playing cards. To avoid imprisonment, Briatore lived as a fugitive in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands.